The Florida Panthers went up against the Columbus Blue Jackets for the second time this season. The last time around, they scored 9 goals, and history repeated itself this time around as they got 8 in this one. We're going to talk more about this game against the Columbus Blue Jackets and talk all about this third line with one game remaining before the All-Star break / Olympic break on today's episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, your first listen of the day.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, February 1st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm Armando Velez from PantherParkway.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. And once again, thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So, like I said in the beginning, the Florida Panthers do it again against these same Columbus Blue Jackets. The last time these two teams faced off against each other was that back-to-back just earlier this month where they scored 7 against Dallas and then they got 9 against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Incredible that they got 16 goals in a 2-game span at that time. But this time it was a road game in Nationwide Arena, a part of the Florida Panthers season on the road of the offensive barrage that the Florida Panthers have shown at home this season just hasn't been consistent on the road this season. But the Florida Panthers are really starting to find their game on the road. Andrew Brunette in his press conferences over and over again says, we got to find our road game, however you impersonate his voice. But you know what I mean. He's always trying to say that we got to find our road game. And the Florida Panthers, just this recent stretch of their 2-game trip in Dallas and Carolina, their 5-game Western Canadian trip, and now this first game of this quick 2-game trip before the Olympic break, they come out with a bang in this one. And this third line, just incredible for this Florida Panthers team, a combined 15 points. The Lundell, Reinhart, and Mason Marchment line, 5 goals, 10 assists in this game against the Columbus Blue Jackets, carrying them to an 8-4 victory. And my goodness, it feels at this point that every single time it's a different line, a different player stepping up for this Florida Panthers team. And when you want to win a Stanley Cup, the different parts of scoring and different lines have to come out night in and night out for this Florida Panthers team. And when we think about how this Florida Panthers team played on the road to start the season, winning their first 3 and then going on a major slump throughout over a month, and then now this most recent stretch of games, the Florida Panthers now find themselves in a great position right before the Olympic break. And man, it's just great to see. And they set the tone early, just scoring 30 seconds into the game and not letting up. They never trailed in this game as well. The Florida Panthers did allow it to get close at times during this game, which we'll talk more about in the next segment. But the Panthers, they continue to just build their leads and keeping the leads and just not letting up mostly. And we've seen this time and time again in the past where they've blown a lead late within the last minute of the game. It's tied in the last minute of the game, and then they give up a goal late in the game. But something I tweeted out like in the middle of the first period or second period after it was 4-2 at the end of the first, I said, I'm glad that the Florida Panthers team now has depth scoring around Jonathan Huberdeau and Alexander Barkov, because in years past, that wasn't the case. And it was top line reliant. And once teams shut down that top line, There was nothing else this Florida Panthers team could do, and they had to rely on their goaltending and Roberto Luongo at the time, and even Sergei Bobrovsky in the first 2 years. But Sergei Bobrovsky wasn't even playing well his first 2 years. But now that they got those pieces around the two superstars and Aaron Ekblad, of course, the Florida Panthers just continue to find ways to win. And now they're 3 games over 500 on the road. And they were flirting with 500 most of this season. And now they created a little bit of that cushion, that separation as they try to just continue to rack up wins on the road. And most of their road games, most of their games, are just coming on the road as they finish off the next 30 some odd games before the playoffs start. And something I saw as well on the internet is that the Florida Panthers can lose for a whole month of the season and they could still make the playoffs. Again, they need to forget how to play hockey in order to not make the playoffs. But the Florida Panthers, they just continue to find ways. It's always, once again, it's always somebody different every single night. And this tonight or last night, because you're listening to this on a Tuesday, the Florida Panthers third line was that line for the Cats in this one. And and also with the scoring and the lead that the Florida Panthers were able to build, the Andrew Burnett's job towards the end of the game was a lot easier, being able to manage the minutes of his superstars. Of course, this is the first end of a back-to-back going in Columbus tonight and then going into New York on Tuesday to face off against the Rangers. But that is what happens when you get up to a big lead early. And of course, like I said, they let it a little close towards the middle of the game. But when you break away and you find ways to increase your lead late, you give your team an opportunity to rest more. You allow them to be more fresh. And we've seen it with this team that they've put different line combinations every single night. It's not just a same line for a whole week now. There's always different things. There's always challenges for coaches, regardless of whether you're first place or even last place in the NHL. And Andrew Brunette wasn't afraid to experiment that with putting Barkov and Huberdeau on the top line, even though the Barkov and Huberdeau line got one goal in the game, which was a power play goal. So great news for the Florida Panthers, regardless. But still, the challenges that a coach has to make and still taking some gambles, taking Sam Reinhart off that first line. Let's not forget there's a good part of the season where Rhino was on that top line and then taking him out for Maxim Mammon at the time. I was a little hesitant at first, but of course, injuries, COVID happens. And now Andrew Burnett is looking like a freaking genius trying to gamble on these lines. And Andrew Burnett also a few days ago talked about how putting Barkov and Huberdeau on separate lines makes them better. But now seeing them together in this one, part of me thought is Andrew Burnett not trying to tip his hand, or is he trying to create a spark for this team? So it can go one of different ways for trying to put Barkov and Huberdeau together. But hey, different games call for different things. And of course, after tomorrow, you have so much time to just reevaluate more of what the season is. But right now, for this Florida Panthers team, this 8-4 win for this team, the third line performing the way that they are, you just can't separate them at this point. And there was a time where the fourth line was really dominating this Florida Panthers team. So it's not just middle six, it's not just top six, it's every single part of this lineup. And the Florida Panthers, their coaching staff is probably so elated when it comes to the scoring that is offered from each line every single night. And of course, you, the fan, and myself, it's just great to see that this Florida Panthers team just continues to find ways to score, and it just comes down to speed as well of their zone entries and their ability to draw 3-on-2s or 2-on-1s going the other way, getting in the back check and on the forecheck as well. And just the Florida Panthers are just continuing trying to do that. And it's great to see the first team to get to 69 points in the NHL, and the Florida Panthers continue on this quest and just continuing night in and night out trying to get better. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. But we're going to break down more of this game against the Columbus Blue Jackets, this 8-4 victory over Columbus. But right now, I want to tell you all about BetOnline. There might be less football being played, but BetOnline.ag has way more odds and info for this playoff season. For scores, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the number one spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And it's not just football. BetOnline, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC odds is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino game, BetOnline is your number one spot for wagering destinations. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Also, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Now, where all the local experts across the Locked On NHL network will be breaking down their quick 1 to 2 minute recaps of each game happening every night in the National Hockey League. So this game started off with lines of Huberdeau, Barkov, and Verhaeghe, like we talked about with the line changes. Anthony Duclair, Sam Bennett, Owen Tippett. We'll talk a little bit about Owen Tippett as well. Mason Marchment, Anton Lundell, Sam Reinhart, the line of the night. Ryan Lomberg, Eetu Luostarinen, and Joe Thornton. Defensive pairings, Uyghur Ekblad, Forrest Lundgudis, and Lucas Carlson, and Brandon Montour. And like I said, the Florida Panthers go into this one scoring right away, 32 seconds into the game. And two of those goals, at least in the very beginning, you got to give credit to the defenseman. You got to give credit to Radko Gudas for keeping it in the zone on the first goal, dumping it in, and then Lundell finding Mason Marchment for that one, 32 seconds into the game. And then and then dumping into the net and then chasing the puck as well. The second one, Mackenzie Weegar dumps it behind, and Mason Marchment just finds Anton Lundell and then Sam Reinhart for an wide open net. Just this Florida Panthers team just continues with the way they do their quick passing. Just coaches, they always teach one thing. They teach one thing, head on a swivel, of moving your head back and forth, of keeping two seconds on your man, 1 second on the puck, and continuing to like move it back and forth to just never lose your man and never lose the puck. But with the quick passing that the Florida Panthers continue to do, it's just hard for defenses to just keep up with it. And before you know it, that puck is moving and getting into the net. And Elvis Merzlikins just all night in the beginning of this game. I mean, they pulled the goalie to begin the third period, but Elvis Merzlikins in the first 40 minutes was just left out to dry for his Columbus Blue Jackets team. But though the Florida Panthers did score a lot of goals, there was a lot of times where the Columbus Blue Jackets made this a lot closer than it needed to be. And the first goal, not Bobrovsky's fault, but Nyquist deflects it right into the net. But there were two specific turnovers that Aaron Ekblad had that Patrick Laine converted on both of them to make this game closer than what I thought needed to be. And Radko Gudas as well, the physicality in this one. Radko Gudas had 2 hits in like 5 seconds on Cole Sillinger and Eric Robinson. So that was also a big tone setter for the Florida Panthers early. And the Florida Panthers also scored their first power play goal in just about over a week. They went 3 straight games without a power play goal, their first one since their game against the Seattle Kraken. But also encouraging to see as well that their power play, even though it's 1 out of those 8 goals, that it's continuing to be a unit that is continuing to build. And this is what these wins are bringing for the Florida Panthers. These are continuing to be building blocks for you get some power play goals, you get some third line scoring, you get some timely goaltending when you need to. Sure, the stats for Sergei Bobrovsky are going to say 32 of 36 on this one. But single game save percentage for Sergei Bobrovsky does not tell the whole story, because there was a few times where the Columbus Blue Jackets had some grade A opportunities on 2-on-1s going the other way, and Sergei Bobrovsky just was able to make stops when he needed to. But the redirection and those turnovers, but 2 of them by Ekblad that I could recall, I can't really put blame on Sergei Bobrovsky for those, because I mean, he was left 1-on-1 on Patrick Laine for that. But still, the Florida Panthers, their ability to score just in bunches, and 4-2, you see 4-2 at the end of the first period, and you think that that's a final score with this game, and it's like, oh crap, we got 40 minutes to go, and Lundell gets 3 assists in the first period. Mason Marchment gets a goal and an assist, and then Rhino gets 2 of them. And the second one by Sam Reinhart, he was denied 20 seconds right before, and then the puck gets to the neutral zone, and then Sam Reinhart just pokes it away, and just beautiful, just chef's kiss by this third line for the Florida Panthers. And the Florida Panthers, they're used to getting 4 goals. And I wrote something down, and I went and I wrote like a little thumbnail saying, correct this before the game is over. So they score 13 goals in their last 16 games. And I wrote 12-2-1, pending the final score of this one. So 4+ goals in 13 of their last 16 games, going all the way back to their win against Tampa Bay Lightning, 9-3 win, where they scored at least 3 goals 3 times in that span, and 7 goals 4 times in that span. 13-2-1. You're gonna give your team a chance to win 9 times out of 10, or in this time 13 times out of 16 for the Florida Panthers. And the speed. Let's go to the second period, and Lundell now is second in rookie points in the NHL after his 5-point night. A beautiful stretch pass to Mason Marchment, and then Sam Reinhart using his speed to get through the offensive zone, and then Mason Marchment finding Sam Reinhart for the goal to make it 5-2 at the time. And let's not forget the criticism that came out of Buffalo when Sam Reinhart got only 1 point in 6 games. Now he's averaging about a point a game now for this Florida Panthers team. And and NHL.com is actually fairly quick with updating their points for individual players once games go final. So the fact that Sam Reinhart is contributing the way he has as of late after getting off to a somewhat slow start offensively, but when you're getting acclimated to a new system, it takes a little bit. And NHL.com has it updated now. 43 points in 43 games, a point per game for Sam Reinhart. Now he's in a better situation. He got paid just over $6 million when the Florida Panthers got his RFA rights. So, and remember, there was a lot of worry in this Florida Panthers fan base because he was the last RFA to be signed as well. It took a little while, but Jameson Olive talked about it. David Dwork talked about it, how the relationship between the front office and Sam Reinhart to get the contract situated there was no issues. And people were starting to wonder whether he was worth that over $6 million cap hit. And averaging a point per game on this Florida Panthers team, and being a bottom 6 player too. Capable of being a top line player, being on that right wing next to Barkov, but the fact that he's on that third line, being that mentor to a young 20-year-old in Anton Lundell. And he talked about after the game how Anton Lundell is more mature than most 20-year-olds. So that says a lot. And they talked about, we hear Barkov and Lundell comparisons all the time, and then a lot of pictures start to resurface of when Barkov came into the league at 18 years old, and it's just like they grow up so fast. And Anton Lundell, he hasn't even developed his full physical strength yet, coming into the US and coming into the NHL at 20 years old. Because when you have the training that the strength and conditioning that NHL teams provide, Anton Lundell is going to get that, especially this offseason and into the next. And we are going to see Anton Lundell really, really bulk up in the next few years. And he's doing this, having this production at 20 years old too. And it's just a thing of beauty. And though again, they the Panthers had a little bit of a scare in this one. Benstrom makes it 5-3, and after Sergei Bobrovsky is unable to hold the puck, and we talked about Aaron Ekblad's few turnovers that Patrick Laine was able to convert on Ekblad's turnovers. But man, the really I'm very happy. I got to be very happy for Owen Tippett. And we're going to talk about it later this week about Owen Tippett and some of the trade rumors that he's in. But great to see Owen Tippett get on the board. And the broadcast, Steve Goldstein talked about how Owen Tippett was the last player off of the ice after morning skate, and he was working with Tomo Ruutu, one of the assistant coaches for the Panthers, and just Tomo Ruutu was just starting to feed him some pucks and starting to help him get his shot developed. And of course, Owen Tippett had a little bit of time on the top line the last few games, and of course there was a little bit of a change with Barkov and Huberdeau. Doesn't help that Maxim Mammon's not healthy right now, but giving him that opportunity to at least get something going, regardless of whether he has a future here or not. Great to see that Owen Tippett is getting on the board, and Owen Tippett in that one made it 6-4. And there was a situation later in the game where Owen Tippett had a steal right in the Columbus Blue Jackets zone, and he had a beautiful setup to Brandon Montour. So that is going to help his case for a possible trade value. I mean, there's rumors with Arizona. There's rumors that I haven't heard anything about whether the Florida Panthers are involved in a trade with John Klingberg, but I have heard Ben Sherratt of the Montreal Canadiens. So what kind of situation does Bill Zito and what package put together? But the more Owen Tippett scores and the more he gets involved in the offense and in a top six role, it's going to be beneficial for both sides. And hopefully, if Owen Tippett does end up getting traded, it's a better situation for him. And you got to root for the guy regardless, because he is a human being. Of course, he's a hockey player too, but you have to. Me personally, as covering this team and seeing them in the press conferences every day, and of course covering these games, you root for. I tend to more root for individual players more and more, and of course, I'm rooting so hard for Owen Tippett, regardless of what happens to him. But let's go also to another moment in this one where Columbus just gives away the puck, and then Mason Marchment. It's not just his goal scoring, it's not just his hits in the neutral zone, but his ability to just feed pucks as well. Sets up Mackenzie Weegar right in the slot for his fourth goal of the season. And now Mason Marchment, just checking again for NHL.com because they update the stats so fast. Mason Marchment, right now, NHL.com says 17 points in 20 games. I'm not sure if that is accurate, but if that isn't, and if you add the points that he had, I mean, it would be 23 points in 21 games if that is accurate. But right now, NHL.com says 17 in 20, and we think about where Dennis Malgin on that trade, 0 points in 8 games for the Toronto Maple Leafs and a -3 during his time there. Luckily for Dennis Malgin, thanks to Alex Baumgartner of the Fifth Line 5R show, he will be playing in the Olympics for Team Switzerland, and he's actually having a pretty good season for his team in Switzerland. 44 points in 40 games. So happy for Dennis Malgin, and of course he's going to be on the big stage for Team Switzerland in the Olympics. But I also want to talk about Mason Marchment's time on ice as well. He led the Florida Panthers in shots with 6 in this one. And of course, his ice time 15 minutes and 19 seconds in this one, and he gets the production that he has. And even we saw in the late game situations of Andrew Brett continuing to want to feed Mason Marchment. He was just continuing to be fed. It was like Operation Feed Mason Marchment in this one, and that was really it's crazy. And of course, again, both of Mason Marchment's goals come really early in the periods. The first one was 32 seconds in, and then the second one was 27 seconds in, and 6 points in this one, tying Olli Jokinen for most points in a game by a Florida Panthers player. Olli Jokinen did it in 2007. Anton Lundell breaks a rookie record for points in a game with 5. So a record-setting night for multiple players, for Mason Marchment and Anton Lundell. And Sam Reinhart was asked after the game, that because Sam Reinhart got a hat trick, he was asked about how it's very rare how one gets a hat trick, but they're not the first star of the game. And I don't know how often that happens. It doesn't seem like it would happen like really often at all. But Mason Marchment, the star of the show, and then there's that image. There's that image of Mason Marchment of just like saying of cheering after a goal that was just a fan painted a beautiful picture of Mason Marchment celebrating after a goal that's just been shared all over the internet. And maybe I could share it as the thumbnail for this episode if I'm able to. But just that image was a mood for the performance that Mason Marchment had for having 6 points in this one. And there he had a breakaway where he almost had a 7th point. I was like, man, Mason Marchment, 6 points wasn't enough for you. But man, just continuing just to be an awesome trade for the Florida Panthers. And Dale Talon left with a bang on that last trade deadline before being let go by Vinny Viola, and just continues to just be that valuable bottom 6 player. And he's going to be a UFA this year. So you're going to have to pay him. You're going to have to. If he continues this, there is no way in hell you're letting this guy walk. And Bill Zito has some tough decisions to make as this coming offseason, with the Florida Panthers being a little cap strapped, especially with Keith Yandel's buyout being on the books next year, the majority of it at least. But these are the good problems to have as the Florida Panthers continue to try to contend in the Eastern Conference and the rest of the NHL. And this is what you want. This is the good problems. This is what Florida Panther fans crave when they want to build a consistent winner. We can worry about the cap later. Right now, the goal is all about winning, and the Florida Panthers are enjoying just that. So we're going to transition over to the next segment, but first, we're going to tell you all about Rock Auto. And with the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait until the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing only the brands their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, and even 100% more on the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right Locked On in there "How did you hear about us" box, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for this final segment, the Florida Panthers on this 2-game road trip, they got 1 game remaining, and it's a game where the Florida Panthers will be facing off against the New York Rangers on an ESPN Plus / Hulu exclusive. So that's the only way you're going to catch the game. The last time these two teams faced, the box score might have said 4-3, but in reality, that game was not even close, where the Florida Panthers outshot the New York Rangers by over 25 shots on goal. but they just were not able to figure out Igor Shesterkin in that one. But the Florida Panthers are looking out to close this first half of this season. Well, not really half because they played over half of their games, but this first portion of their season before their break uh, with a bang as they tried to go into Madison Square Garden and find a way to beat New York and win the season series as well, because they did win their second matchup out in Sunrise on the 29th of December. But the Florida Panthers, they will be going into that game where the New York Rangers, in their most recent matchup, they had a 3-2 win against Seattle after a two-game losing streak. But they're having such a great season, and New York has just been spoiled with goaltending. They just retired Henrik Lundqvist's number, and they just have one of the best goalies in the game. Chris Kreider having an unbelievable season, leading one of the leading scorers on his way, on pace to possibly win the Rocket Richard this season as well. And though it's nuts because the New York Rangers and the Florida Panthers are kind of similar, where they've had some top picks in the draft, but just having a hard time getting those pieces put together. Alexis Lafreniere and Capo Caco. And for the New York Rangers, we're going to talk hopefully about this more with John Chick tomorrow after the game about from Locked On New York Rangers, about what this New York Rangers team could be if you can get consistent scoring from those two, and just the expectations of those two coming in when they came into the league, and what this New York Rangers team can be going into this one. A few more notes before we get out of here. And the Florida Panthers in the month of January, most wins in a month in franchise history with 12. Most goals in a month in over 25 years of the NHL. This 2021-2022 Florida Panthers team have scored the most goals in a month in 25 years. We knew that this was a season that was historic, but when you look at those numbers, it's amazing that it's that historic about how the Florida Panthers are able to score goals the way they do. And once again, Anton Lundell, second in rookie points. So at the beginning, I was saying he wasn't going to win the Calder Trophy, but now he's officially in the race. And NHL.com did release their all-rookie all-star team, and Anton Lundell was not in that. And I disagree fully. After they see that performance tonight by Anton Lundell getting 5 assists, I think NHL.com should definitely change their mind. Call me biased, but the rookie points says it. So you might want to start paying attention. NHL and the national media, you might want to start paying attention to this kid and what he's doing at 20 years old. And Connor McDavid did score a point. He got a goal in Edmonton's loss against Ottawa. Leon Draisaitl didn't get a point, but with Jonathan Huberdeau getting a point on the power play with Alexander Barkov scoring, Jonathan Huberdeau does remain the points leader for the NHL coming into the All-Star break / Olympic break. Of course, Edmonton still has their games in hand, so we will keep an eye out on the points race, the Art Ross race, as they say in the NHL, as Jonathan Huberdeau continues that, and we'll definitely be talking about that more on Locked On Panthers, about how that looks between tonight's game against the New York Rangers, February 1st, and when the Florida Panthers do resume on February 16th against the Carolina Hurricanes, a nationally televised game, by the way. So we'll be talking more about that. But tomorrow we'll be hopefully bringing in John Chick of Locked On New York Rangers to discuss more about tonight's game against the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast so you'll be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On NHL and the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark, will be covering all the regular season activities around the National Hockey League. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen today. And for your second listen today, make sure you listen to today's episode of Locked On Bets, your one-stop shop for all things betting. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms, so subscribe to Locked On Bets on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.